No. Since everyone else has their computer and it's official, I'm going to pull up this and make it look like I'm official.
You're not official, though. All right. Vince, you're going to want to move over.
Which way? Left?
So, you see, none of you can see this. Take a look. That's what you guys look like.
Vince.
Can we get
draw up on here.
there you go. Look at that. We're all in here. We're all.
Can't wear a white shirt. Huh?
I can. Look at that. You can read it real well. How do we send people a link to this thing?
Hey, Tom, what's your password?
Penis.
We're live now, right?
061089.
016.
All right. How's the focus?
0610.
That clean it up?
89.
All right.
061089.
June 10th, 1989.
That looks a lot better, doesn't it, Danny?
100% better. Oh, nice.
061.
June 10th, 1989.
Okay.
So,
Well, yeah, obviously.
06.
Why does this happen when I'm never there, says Mason Hazel. Well, Mason,
That's what happens when you get the shingles.
I was going to say, you've got shingles, so we made an executive decision. Said, well, he's out of town. We're under the weather, so no sense in including him. The real question is, can we get... Tom, are you going to get in on this? Where is... Go to my YouTube. We're going to pull this up. I'm going to share this with people because it's a live stream.
I'm working.
Yeah, give me your phone.
My phone?
Yeah,
Why?
because I want to copy the link and I want to put the link in the bio. Oh, yeah. I can go back and switch.
No, the SoundCloud link.
No, watch. I'll be Queen's track. I'm going to go edit this. I'm going to bring a link in the bio up here. Edit profile. Boom. Paste. Done. All right, you ready? Swipe over. We're going to go live. Turn the volume off on that. It's telling people about us. So anyway, what's been going on in your guys' life?
Too much?
No, hold on. Danny finally here is a member of the coaching staff. How is that?
Finally made it. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here on the dark side, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, for those of you, Will Vogel, if you want to go and you want to see the real live stream, the link is in the bio. Link is in the bio, people. We've got a live stream going on right now, Coaches Roundtable on YouTube. Currently got a couple coaches in here, and if you want to be a part of this, you want to check out the link in the bio, you can go ahead and check that out and be a part of the coaches show. Nick, what do you got going on in your group right now?
Right now, we're just starting up the season. A little conditioning stuff, so they're enjoying themselves thoroughly. And, yeah, just enjoying the North Carolina heat to its fullest.
And when you say you're enjoying it to the fullest, you really aren't doing anything, are you? You're just watching people do stuff.
That is correct.
Hey, if you just join us on Instagram Live, you want to hop over there, the link is in the bio. You can join us on YouTube and check out the Coaches Show right now. We're just talking a little bit about preseason and how things are going. We've got Vince Schneider, who's over here, who's a part of the Sprints Jumps. Vince, how's your group doing?
They're sweating a lot.
Yeah, and what's the average temperature?
It's probably like 92, 95 once you get to practice. It's been very humid. A lot of people are struggling because they come over from England and never been in 100% humidity. So that's been fun to see.
For those of you who are not from the Carolinas, it is great, especially when we hit winter, because then we...
Yes, the area is really, really nice as far as the winter weather. Again, link in the bio if you are just joining us on Instagram Live. go to the link in the bio. Tell us a little bit about Winter in the Carolinas.
Which one?
You tell us about
Oh.
Winter in the Carolinas. I
Coming.
apologize. You.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Winter in the Carolinas is absolutely, I think, gorgeous. We rarely have any weather that could intimidate any training we do, anything like that. I mean, it stays pretty mild for us. I think coldest really got what last year was like maybe in the coldest days are in the 30s.
Yeah. I mean, for the highs.
For
Certainly.
the highs. I mean, and that's not bad, especially yet again, looking at people from the north or colder regions. I mean, you're used to that wintertime. You're training in very low degree temperatures or snowy conditions.
Again, if you're joining us on Instagram Live, the link is in the bio. You can join us over on YouTube, where we're just chatting a little bit about things as far as training, news around track and field, what's going on. Maybe just a preview for the coaches show. Any of you guys have a vision or maybe thoughts about what this is going to look like down the road?
Throughout the season, I think there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that goes unshown. And now that I am on the coaching staff, I see that more often. And I think we're in a very busy period, having only been in school for 3 weeks, and things are starting to speed up. And
So
it's
talk
getting
about that a
serious.
little bit. Well, I mean, what have you seen now that you're behind the scenes that maybe surprised you or that you didn't know, compared to when you were an athlete before?
So there is this sort of notion where we go to practice at 6 a.m. and then we're done by, I don't know, about 8 a.m. And then we go have breakfast and whatever as athletes. And then the coaches go off and we don't really know what happens then. So for me to see that now, where I'm going to the office and doing some of the admin work where we're getting meat sorted, we're getting the gear sorted, we're really looking forward to the future in terms of recruiting and equipment and just making things happen so that facilitating practice every morning is that easy. I think it's opened my eyes to the fact that there is so much that needs to be done, even just day to day. So I think it's shown me that there's a lot that's happening to make it as smooth as it is.
What's your favorite part about being on staff?
Probably the dog, Mr. Richard.
Mr. Richard. Does he share the same last name?
Mm-hmm.
Richard.
Richard.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking more like Richard Green. That's what I wanted to know. So Richard is
Yeah, why don't you
the team
point
dog.
out
You
where
want
the head is, because it's kind of hard to see on this screen.
to? Yeah. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about Richard
Richard is the assistant coach for emotional support.
here? Okay.
He handles the day-to-day of making everyone feel joyous and happy, no matter if you have a great day, bad day. He picks up the spirits. And overall, just gives a general distraction from the mundane and lets people enjoy, as you can tell, some love and attention.
What type of dog?
It is a purebred Yorkshire.
Can you tell us a little bit about, I don't know anything about Yorkshires. I don't know anything about pretty much dogs in general. So just, talk to us a little bit about what this little rascal is and does. Is he bred for chasing rats? What is he? What's a Yorkshire Terrier for?
Typically, Yorkshires are for chasing rats. Now, I will warn you, this one is defective in that respect.
He's not a good rat catcher?
Used to be until he bit one and it squealed at him, and he thought he did something wrong, so he stopped doing that.
Can he see even though he's got all this hair in his eyes?
He can see. He's just ready for a nap.
Oh. Now, is Yorkshire, I'm used to like labs, very active animals.
Now,
What's a day look like for Mr. Richard here?
Well, some moments are more active than others. Typically, though, he's more relaxed, especially for his breed, where he's just like wants to nap, enjoy himself, maybe eat some bones, some dog food, and drink water. Other than that, then he has his periods where he just wants to bounce off the walls and have some fun playing with everyone. Wrestling.
I've got a bone that you got for him over at my place that he didn't do anything with.
I know it wasn't peanut butter flavored.
I don't know any bones that are peanut butter flavored.
Yeah, typically you put peanut butter in there for him.
Okay. So what else? What else are we working on right now? It's 2:33. We've got practice at 3:30 today. Apparently, nobody on my channel here is getting on the Instagram Live. I thought I would share that with a few people, but again, we're just going to try to do this on a regular basis where we bring in either student athletes, other coaches that are in our building. We are located at the sports complex, which is a couple miles from campus. And just part of, I think, what we're doing is just give people a little venue for people to hang out and talk a little bit about what's going on in their day-to-day lives. Anything? How about this? I'm going to pose this one for the group. Did anybody watch the track and field meet last night, United States versus Europe?
I watched the highlights.
I got to see a little bit of the discus, the women's discus.
Loggy won.
Mhm.
Loggy won, yeah. She threw 67 meters in women's disc. Big personal best for her.
Oh, very nice for her. I mean,
She's still got, I think, 2 years
Mhm.
left at Iowa.
That she does.
Yeah.
Great talent, going to develop very nicely over the years, hopefully. And,
I didn't know she was from the United States.
Mhm.
I thought she was maybe from somewhere in the Caribbean.
and I mean, that wouldn't be like, I had the same opinion, but I mean, Eric's doing great things at Iowa. I mean, the U.S. talent pool's getting better and getting ready to take it to the world.
Now, it was interesting. I don't know if any of you saw or if you viewers at home saw, in this competition for the field events, in an effort to expedite things, they gave each vertical jumper, so pole vault and high jump, 8 attempts. Start anywhere you want. Actually, they did long jump that way too. They gave everybody 8 attempts, triple jump 8 attempts.
Really? I thought it was 4.
Maybe it was 4.
Pretty
Was it
sure it's
4
in
last
those
night?
formats, yeah.
So 4, okay. And then they had a weird scoring. It was like 9, 7, 6. Yeah, we don't have the ability to pull that up on the screen right now. We're working on that. But I don't know. Thoughts on the format, just the concept of it. It was kind of like the A-B level Americans. What was the level of the Europeans?
Probably didn't bring their A team just because it's. I mean, the timing isn't bad because the Worlds are so late this year, but it's a new meet, so I don't know if the real A-level athletes want to go out to Belarus.
Well, and one of the guys
I think.
from Belarus, is that the same as Bulgaria? No,
Nope.
or close. I don't know if it was a Bulgarian or a Belarusian, whatever. High jumper set the world lead, jumped 235 at that meet, set a personal best. It was pretty interesting. I thought one of the things that was really interesting is there was a guy that went to Chadron State. He was too small for the football team. Football passed him along the track and field, said, hey, there's this guy from Georgia very interested in coming to school here. Are you interested in him? Jumped 8:19 last night. He jumped 8 meters when he was in Division II, transferred to Oregon, jumped 8+ there, ran sub 10 in the 100-meter dash. But overall, it was a pretty good meet. So nobody really saw it. I mean, what did you think of the highlights that you saw?
I thought it was pretty interesting. I think before I actually saw the competition, I was worried that the fields would be quite limited. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's roughly about 4 per team in each event. So I thought in some of the longer events, like the middle distance races and even some of the field events.
Well,
it
even
might
the
be
United
limited.
States guy ran 3:31
Yeah, in a 52 last lap.
or
as well.
3:32. Yeah, 3:30.
52 last lap. So
Yeah, it was a great 1,500-meter run.
very good. So I think that was exciting to see, and there were some big names on the Europe side. You've got Jake Whiteman and Charlie Grice, who are both incredible talents and very highly ranked this year. So I think the competition's there. I'm just worried that after this year, as Vince said, where we lose the draw of the World Championships in the next.
Well, let me ask you this. We also have a relay championship early in the year. Does that draw, because that's, one of the things that I think is really important for the success of the Olympics, the success of the World Championships, is that you go and you represent your country, right? In the Diamond League, you're just a person. It doesn't even matter what country you are. It's more you representing yourself as an individual. Meets like this, where it pits a region such as Europe against a large region like the United States, or in the relay championships where it's each country versus other countries, how important is that to the success or the popularity of these events in the future? What do you guys think? Nick, what are your thoughts?
I think they are, especially because as we draw closer to the Olympics, it draws that kind of national pride, especially to track and field and what we're developing in this. I know for the U.S. and as a throws coach, I'm very proud of always U.S. shot put. It's always developed. I mean, you can look at people like Daryl Hill's done massive things this coming years, where he's gone 22 meters, not once, not twice, but multiple. He had once
Where did he throw out in college?
do at Penn State.
He did throw at Penn State.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now he's training out at Chula Vista and that, doing great things there. And I mean, that's one thing, at least my point of view. And we have Europeans here, so we can get their opinion.
I mean, my opinion might be a little different. I don't care much about what nation you're running for. That might just be because it's a little different between Europe and the US. I'm more interested in what can people do, who's the best. I'm not interested if they're from the Netherlands, US, the Bahamas. Couldn't really care less, to be honest.
I think one interesting competition, which I guess this is aiming to be the same sort of caliber, is the
Sorry,
Ryder Cup.
quite catch that. Could you
Oh,
please
Mr.
repeat?
No,
Your
sorry.
phone is trying to pick.
Sorry, Siri had her opinion. She didn't hear that. What'd you say again?
The Ryder Cup in golf, USA
Mhm.
versus Europe. I think
Yeah,
that's
which
an
I-
incredible competition every year.
But for you, it doesn't really matter how the Germans do it. Like you don't get up a little bit more. You don't get up a little bit more.
No, that's
watch
what I'm
the
saying.
Brits.
The level of national pride, and maybe that's just for Germany, is just not as high.
Yeah, I mean,
What about Europe versus
that's what I
another
mean,
region?
Yeah, the level of pride for an American for USA compared to a Brit for Europe is you can't even compare them. Like, I'm not going to support a European team, whereas
Well, let me
I mean,
ask you this.
Europe as itself is a great concept.
yeah,
It's just not at the level of the
It's
US where you have all
Correct.
this national pride because you came and
So let me ask you this: backing down from the concept of Europe and just moving it to Germany versus USA, like in the Thorpe Cup, for example,
Mhm.
you get up a little bit more to watch the German team compete against the American team versus just a regular decathlon.
I mean, there's always, Germany wins or the US wins. Who really cares? I don't.
there's more on the line.
It's more of I know some of the guys.
We
on the
haven't won
German
in like
teams.
10 years.
Yeah, but
I'm saying I care.
Yeah.
I'm saying we
I
haven't
know.
won in 10 years.
I care because I know some of the guys on the
Yeah.
German team. I know them personally. If I knew guys on the American team personally,
You'd want
I
them to
care
do
more
well
about
too.
them,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
so it's for me, it's more about do I have any relation to that person?
Was Florian Obst in the last Thorpe Cup? I think he was, wasn't he?
So yeah.
Okay. Just for those of you who are playing along at home, Florian Obst is a decathlete who was in Division II, scored over 8,000 points at the national championships. Second highest score, I think, in Division II history. And I think that would probably fall somewhere behind some of the Mount St. Mary's athletes that were in the 1980s. So how do we make, I guess, like to me, having these athletes be athlete A, athlete B, athlete C is not a recipe for success. Because if we go and we look at the Premier League, right? Those are attached to a town or a region or a club, whatever it is. People get up for that. We're not going to have clubs in the track and field concept. You're not going to have Club A versus Club B. But I do like the concept of country versus country, right? Should we have more of that maybe in the Diamond League and maybe a country scoring as things go?
I think not. I mean, if you look at it, what really is a nation going to another nation? It's a substitute for going to war.
Huh.
That's how I think of it.
Well, and I think of that too. I don't disagree with that, but let's think of the competition between university and university. It is a substitute for war, and it's a substitute, I think, a positive substitute for that otherwise natural aggression, right? Where you represent your institution. So, for example, during the Cold War, some of the most popular competitions that happened in track and field were the USA versus the USSR. So there was this simmering in the idea behind the Cold War is that a hot war is something that's actively being contested. A Cold War is maybe one that is being fought from an ideological standpoint, or whether it's things like sabotage. I forget the term for spycraft, or maybe just spycraft is what I'm trying to say, but those were some of the most popular competitions. And when we had Olympics where both sides participated, it was more East versus West, right? So if you were a West German, you wanted to be an East German. And if you were, any of a Western bloc versus Eastern bloc countries, there was So I don't know. I don't see it as a negative. Do you really see it as a?
Well, in the example of West versus East,
Yeah.
I don't really think that's a positive because to this day Germany is still somewhat divided in that.
Yeah. But not
So
as
by
a
now, obviously, you have one Germany. We're fighting under one flag.
Right.
But then again, with the German history just being what it is, people are just not flying flags,
Yeah.
garden or whatever.
Well, and let me ask you this. I mean, it's not a result of sports.
No.
You know what I mean? It's a result of ideological differences from a political standpoint that were pretty negative. I think we could all agree that period of history, just in general, very tumultuous, very negative, not revolving around, the soccer game. The concept of sports is that we can compete against each other, and then when we're done,
Right.
still be friends.
Right.
So I would say I like the concept within sports of continuing to do things that build rivalries, but again, functional rivalries that are not negative.
Right.
So I mean, do you feel
So,
like there's a way to do that with countries?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it with the match, as this is called, Europe versus USA.
Yeah.
Or the Fork Cup.
I would love to see this
Kind of-
expanded. I would like to see it reduce the number of people competing and include Asia, and Africa, and so that we have a concept where there is inclusion, or maybe there are multiple matches where USA competes against Europe and Asia and Africa, so that there are more opportunities outside of the Diamond League where it can be marketed, because your largest TV market is the United States, right? In the world.
Mm-hmm.
There are just 500 million people that watch TV. We're raised that way. The other part is maybe if we get Asia into it, then you can get you can mobilize or get a whole group of people who maybe want to go down to the bar and watch all the Asian people compete against the United States. And is that not similar to the Ryder Cup, or is the Ryder Cup just
I was just
Europe
going to
and
say,
the United States?
that's how the Ryder Cup started at some point. But by now, it's this great tradition, and everybody wants to be on the Ryder Cup.
Right.
Like right now, they're probably not fighting over getting into the match.
No.
But if you keep continuing to do that, and there's good results coming from it, it can only grow.
Can you talk about maybe some rivalries that exist in Great Britain, and whether it's within athletics, which is track and field if you're in Europe, any of those?
So what we've just had now is the cricket season. So we're a very big sport in the UK, and one of the biggest rivalries in British history is Australia versus the UK versus England, and that's in the Ashes, and that is a 5-match series spread across a couple of months, and they move around different venues in one country, and then the next year they'll go to the other country, or the next period it will go to the next country.
Can you talk about the rivalry among the Commonwealth nations? Because you have the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
It's certainly more. It's definitely a bit calmer now. I think it's more that long existing rivalry between Australia and England.
Right, but define I don't think everybody knows what the Commonwealth
So
is.
The Commonwealth is the remnants of the British Empire. So every country that was under the monarchy of the British rule, and they have slowly, gradually over time become independent from the British Empire, and now the monarchy of Queen Elizabeth is now just a figurehead.
What was the last country to leave the Commonwealth?
Wouldn't know.
Wasn't it Canada?
I feel like there's the smaller ones. Like
We still compete in the Commonwealth Games.
you still
Well,
have
that's what I'm saying. So people that are no longer in the Commonwealth still compete in the Commonwealth Games. Well, I think that's one of the things that is cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of where you have all of the other games where you have what was the one where we just competed in South America, where it was
Pan
Am. Okay, so you've got both North and South America competing against each other. You have European championships. You've got African championships. You've got Asian championships, Commonwealth Games. So, I mean, there are a lot of opportunities. Is it maybe homogenizing or marketing all of this under one umbrella that really could help bring that?
I think there's two things to it. I think there's, if you want to keep it at a level where it's more inclusive and it gives, I don't know, juniors their first opportunity at senior vest, then great. Like, it's just a bit lower level, but you get an opportunity at that senior level. And then the other hand is you just don't have the marketing of these other sports where you have.
But But again, the other sports are Premier League is all under one Premier League brand.
Yeah, but when you have the European Championships, the World Cup, like this, like you have the sponsors, which we don't have in athletics, where you have Nike, who are they have posters of their stars in the Premier League. You don't get that anywhere in athletics. You don't get anyone who is a poster boy or a poster girl for.
So
for
what,
these brands.
I'm gonna take a shot at one of your guys. Is that a failure of Lord Co and the IAAF?
Because it's still amateurism. It's still, and you're not allowed to have your sponsors on your jerseys and in your competition area. So, like, we can't get marketing because the brand doesn't have anything to gain if they're not able to be demonstrated on the world stage.
Is there so speaking to your guys' area of expertise, the meets that exist that are standalone meets that are on the the European circuit, what's their foundation? Have they just been around for 50 years and so it's a traditional thing and there's localized support? I mean, you can speak to that?
It's usually just a handful of people working really hard, not for the money.
Kind of like our street ball.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, I really like track. There's a tradition here, like in Zurich, and they just put it on every year. They have just enough money to pay, the athletes to come and compete, and that's it.
Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it is a big tradition in athletics and track and field is that there are a lot of volunteers, and they push through the sport because they love the sport, they enjoy the sport, and it's just something they want to see. And it's going to struggle because a lot of the volunteers and the aging population are going to move out of the sport, and there's going to be no one to pick it back up again. So I think we're in a bit of a fine balance here where we don't know what's coming next.
One of the things I was thinking about is like, what is it? The lack of uniformity where there isn't a league, right? There's the Diamond League, and there's money in that.
Yeah.
But based upon the nature of our sport, if they're only running one heat of the 200, there's only 8 or 9 lanes. So that means only 8 or 9 people. And nice part is they have 20 meets. Do they have 20 sessions in the Diamond League? 20 meetings?
It's less than that.
It's in the teens because you start in May and you go all the way through August.
I think it is 20, and then they just flip all the events. So half.
So
Yeah,
like-
you're right.
Right. So like in the championship, there were 2 championship
That's right.
meets. But my question is, I mean, that's not a lot of access, right? There's 53 guys on every NFL team, and there are 30 teams or 32?
32.
So there's 32. So that's 1,500 guys. Are there 1,500 people on the Diamond League circuit?
Well, that's the thing I don't understand as well, is you have all these races and you qualify for that final, but it feels like it's just the same guys over and over again. Like,
Yeah.
You have to, I feel like there should be a limit on how many you're allowed to do, and then you should be able to qualify.
I think that would be interesting. Let's say there's 4 to 5 meets, and you get to pick and choose which 4 or 5 you're going to do.
Yeah.
Let's say 4. Let's say 4. Let's say the 200's offered 10 times. You get to run in 4 of them or 3 of them, something like that. A percentage, and then a couple of things are factored in: how fast you run, place, and that gets you into the final. So it make it more of a much larger group funneling down to a group of 8. Rather than 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. Now, which of the 8 is going to win? Oh, it's the same guy who won all the other races. I mean, that's not that hard to figure out. I like that concept, though. And the other thing I think that it would encourage people to do is do some different events. Instead of specializing in the 100, you can use 200, pieces to be on a relay, be on a 4x1, hop in a US relay, hop on a 4x4, do some of those things. But I think it would make it more similar to the collegiate system, right? Because how many are in the collegiate system? In our league, there's how many teams? 10 teams, 11 teams?
You're probably
Taking
on
up to
11
12.
now.
Well, let's say 10 teams with 100 people on it. That's easy. That's 1,000 people just in our collegiate track and field conference. That's bigger than the whole professional track and field.
Well, there's
system.
a big incentive there,
Yes.
which
Here, you're saying?
if you're not a top 5 in the world track, you're just not making money.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
I think that's where it comes
And
back
that's
to money.
really what it boils down to.
So here's my real question. What would it take financially for us to be able to take these people and broaden the base? You know, just from a year, no incentive. Just like if I could pay you X number of dollars, how much would it take?
I think, I think it just comes to, so you've got athletes out there who aren't even earning, if they don't win the Diamond League or anything like that, they're not even earning probably $20,000 a year. And that doesn't mean they're not world class. It just means they're not winning things.
And there's people that are like elitist as far as in the world. People like, and I'll speak to the hammer thrower, Sean Donnelly, and some of those others who, if they weren't out at Chula Vista and they didn't have that opportunity at the Olympic Training Center, they couldn't afford to do this.
So what would it take? That's what my question is. Would it take 30? Would it take 40,000 a year to
I think
live with dignity?
If you factor in things like travel and things like that, and then just have a lump sum, you're looking,
I'd say closer to like 50 being the baseline with the travel and everything.
yeah, actually include all those.
Yeah, but
benefits
is
and food
it
and-
just a lump sum? Do you
No, I
give,
don't mean
or
that.
is
I
it
just
just
mean like a yearly
there's
figure.
more money to be made at the meets?
Yeah.
Especially through like place 10 to 20.
But I think like if you are given the opportunity to market whoever sponsors you more, then that validates the sort of wage, and then you have the money to earn later on, because those people who won that Diamond League final, they got $50,000.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
it.
a big incentive for them.
Yeah, but I mean,
That's
I'm
the most
saying
money
like
they'll
on the
make.
world stage, like that's nothing.
Well, I was thinking like I had a friend of mine who competed as a professional pole vaulter who was third in the Olympics, in the Greece Olympics. He was fourth there. Somebody got busted ahead of him. He got moved up to third. But between his Nike sponsorship, them matching all of his winnings, and all of his winnings, he grossed over 100,000 every single year. Now, this guy was top 5 in the world every single year for, I think, 10 years. And now he coaches collegiately, and he coaches a kid that's, again, in the same kind of deal, top 5 in the world. But again, like those are so few and far in between. The real question is, what about the developmental athletes that are at 146 to 147 in an 800 and need 2 to 3 years of progression? There is no gap. No way to bridge that gap. And I don't know what that is. Is that like a farm system where you've got small? Because if my mom goes to a track meet, she doesn't care how fast you run, right?
It's true.
Just want to see where you finish.
So in Germany, you're either super really good, you make enough money to live, or you're just police. So the state kind of pays
Right,
for you.
right.
You go to camp like 2 weeks out of the year, and the rest of that you can just go to practice and live your life.
And one of the great things in the United States, they have what's called the WCAP program, and it's with the United States military. They basically, if you're good enough, they'll give you a job to start with and let you do that and support that and give you the flexibility. And then once you're good, you kind of have to do less and less and less. You know what I mean? With the military,
Yeah.
as you get
That's
better and better and better. And so the guy who had my job before I got here, Scott Simmons, now works out in Colorado Springs, has a bunch of guys who are Kenyan Americans who are in the WCAP program who have real jobs. And they're all the guys that got medals at the last Olympics for us. So as big as the United States is and how much money Nike pours into it, we got the same system.
And we also have other ones, like I remember Dick's Sporting Goods did it, where they did the high performing athlete one where you worked with them, and if you were an Olympic hopeful, you know, you made a little bit more and it helped out there. And then I just found out Starbucks has an elite athlete program as well for their people who work for them, who are training for Olympic trials and stuff like that, to help them. And I think definitely like more corporate entities kind of getting involved as far as like helping, especially with funding issues that could just help with farming and stuff like that, as far as developing like athletes, not just like in a certain region, but nationally, because they're everywhere. They're not in any certain bracket. And our athletes span not just in Charlotte, North Carolina, or LA or something. They're all over the world. Nebraska, Iowa, Washington, everywhere.
There was a guy named Jake Arnold that won the 2006 U.S. Championships on the decathlon, and I had my Mercury Sable, 1997 Mercury Sable. It was a bit of a hoopty, and I drove him to his drug test after he won his decathlon championship. But the moral of that story is he worked for Home Depot, and it was 20 hours a week, and they would pay him for basically $40,000 a year. He worked 20 hours a week, and he could come in the morning, so he have all afternoon to train. 20 hours a week, I mean, 4 hours a day is nothing. Is nothing. And you can really those programs are gone. Visa did it for a while when
Yeah,
you
you're
had
right.
Dan and Dave.
Ashton was on that.
Ashton was part of it
Yep.
too. They had a whole decathlon thing. And not that the decathlon is the model for all of this, but that's what I'm familiar with.
Yep.
There's been that type of support, but it's not consistent. And I don't know. I think part of it is the fractured nature of our sport and the way that it's presented to the public. I wish we could create a club system. You know what I mean? Where
And I think that's started, hasn't it? We're on the East Coast Track Club. You've got now Atlanta Track Club, Greenville, Boston. They all group together. Furman. And
they've consolidated
tried to
funding.
make a
Right,
league.
right.
They tried to make a league
That's right. They had
last
that.
year. And I'm not sure.
I
Is
haven't
that
heard
just
about
distance?
it this year.
Is that just distance, or is
It
that?
must just be distance. But I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing is the format. Like, how do you? And I think the answer is dual meets,
Mhm.
right? Like, let's put together a dual meet where there's just one race. There's like 8 guys in it. And, there's 4 teams competing, and we're keeping track after each one. And it's a compelling thing. It's 2
Every
hours
weekend
long.
or whatever.
It's 2 hours long. I can drink beer. I can gamble. I can enjoy it. It's like horse racing. You know what I mean? You get familiar people on it, and you could be on it for 10 years. It'd be you could be on the circuit. You know what I mean? And the problem is, it's going to take somebody who's got a lot of money. It's going to take someone who's got vision, and it's got to take someone who's really an entrepreneur to get it going. It can't just be 4 meets. It's got to be something that's going to last 3 months and keep your attention for 3 months, and come to your city every other weekend. I mean, kind of like basketball. You can't play all your games on the road, or your home base is going to be like, well, say you're from Charlotte, I haven't seen you, right? I don't know. Is there anything like that in Europe? Does that sound crazy?
I mean, the basic concept sounds right. We have club matches where it's just 4 teams. The trouble is, it's back at that old style where it's from 12 p.m. all the way through to 6 p.m. And most of the time the spectators are just sitting there, just what's going on, and there's no announcement to what's going on in the field. There's no results being announced, so it's just very slow and very uninteresting.
So this is just me. Like, is there something like maybe we need to look at? Could we add events? And I know it'd be a hard one, but add events to keep people captivated and energized. I mean, things like Scottish Highland Games with things like throwing a tree that captivates the audience, where they're like, somebody's literally lifting a tree and throwing this thing, and oh my God.
I think it needs to be more interactive. I think it needs to fit within the attention span of the observer. And I think it needs to be something that's consistent in its presentation. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
I read about this the other day. It's this thought of in the Olympics, in each event, just put a random dude in, just to see how
To show the
see
difference.
how
Yeah.
good the actual.
And even like a
Pros.
good random dude, right? It'd be like, put Tom in there, is pretty good in the 800, and let him get stomped by some of the 142 or 143 guys.
Do not pick me for the shot put or any of the throwing events. I don't feel like my dignity could handle that one.
I can do it, and I would be excited about it. I'd be like, because my friends are always like, oh, you're such a big guy. And I'm like, you guys have no clue
Exactly,
what big
like-
athletes are like.
Like, I run 11 flag. Like, oh my God, you're so fast. And I was like,
There's a
no,
guy who
you're really
runs a
not.
second and a half
Yeah.
faster than me
Exactly.
and makes it look effortless. Okay, well, that's going to be about the amount of time that we've got right now. It's 3:01. We've got to go attend to our coaching duties. But for myself, Jim, Danny, Nick, Vince, and Tom, who is in the darkness over yonder, we'd like to say thank you and invite you to come back every single week for our coaches show, where we're just going to talk about great ideas for track and field and talk about specifically what's happening here at Queens University of Charlotte. And we look forward to having you back in the future. Thank you, guys, and have a great one.